this is about us how to make a journey into the future and organization into the future. It's not just brain running with the body left behind. There's a people with the mind and the heart and feeling, and we want to hopefully engage us, happily in the journey we take. So that's my idea. And as you see it, it's about the mini company organization, but there's a connection to the individuals. So how you link what you have as a resource effectively with the company, mini company, and the big company's purpose, and help the society, customers, and so forth. So coming up with a good linkage to put the resource to function, to achieve, and feel happy in doing that. That's my idea. So I said people make it happen. It's relating to almost like a transforming our life, because we have the habit and way that we develop to come to work, and we may need to think of the different ideas. So it may help us to connect our existence to what we do, and to collect the wisdom, and then finding the journey. Each person has a journey. Each mini company has a journey. Mini company is a group of people working together, right? So there's a journey for the mini company to do, and there's a mini company and another mini company and the whole company to move into the direction. So how we can collect the wisdom, transforming the organization to make the most of we have every minute of our existence, the time we have. So that's the idea. My work is relating to the transformation of the company in a way. And for me, one of the basic questions I have in visiting you or any organization is to understand what is your business. I have to ask a fundamental question. What is your business? How are you running your business? And show me the reason of your existence. Tell me what you do, why, so that I can understand. So I want each of you to tell me, if I have a chance to ask, those questions. You may say, I do this, I do that, and I ask the reason, why do you do it? And I want to know the core reason of why you come to work, so that I can understand how you may be doing your work. And if I don't understand you, I cannot help you. So I'm kind of like a doctor to check the temperature and the blood pressure of each individual, understand how the operation is being done, and how it's all connected all together is the next question. Okay, so more specifically, I may ask, in the office, what's going on here? What is critical in doing your job? Why it's so critical? What are you doing about it? Is it showing the good trend, the progress? If so, why? I ask those questions, and I want the answer because they are doing the job for some purpose. So everybody is doing some job. So I think each of you have some explanation why you do, and I think it's natural for me to communicate in this manner. I hope that's okay. It may sound funny, some stranger coming and ask you, what do you do, why? Are you feeling happy about it? And by knowing that, my job is to try to understand and find a way to help. In a way, every manager's job is like that. If every manager is to see his companion, the people working for him, and I think he needs to understand how each people function and what they do and why, and how it's connected to achieving the mission of that mini company, correct? So that's just trying to collect those information. Do you like what you're doing? And I ask the question, how can you improve? Could you give me a suggestion? Or I may ask the question like, what's your pain? Because I don't understand the pain, and if he cannot help, if I'm the manager, what's the point? Manager cannot just tell them what to do, but if they're not happy and they are feeling the pain, manager needs to solve the pain so that they feel good about what they do. And if we work in this way, not just managers, but relating to the suppliers or the customers, internal or external. There's a relationship. You need to know not just your own pain, but you also understand what they are doing, because there's a relationship. So I think not just me, but everybody need to think in this direction. So having visited many companies around the world, maybe I have visited 500 companies, maybe more, and I have visited 40 different nations, different countries around the world, I see the typical symptom. And the picture here explains the typical situation. I call it the one on the left side, left more like a conventional way, and you see it on the right, it's more of a progressive company. The one on the left, more conventional, is there's a top-down, do as I say, and people say, just tell me what to do. But if that's what we do, then there's a limitation of the guys who have to collect all the information to digest and figure out, come up with a solution and telling people what to do. And it may work when the business is simple, but when the business becomes more complex, this guy has to collect more information, the machine may break down, customers complain, the delay of the product, so many things happen, and you may collect and digest, have a meeting, and confused and solve the problem. And it's usually not so healthy. When the business is more consistent and stable, it may work, but when things changes, it may not work. So it's almost like you may develop the stomach ulcer. So many things coming up, and I have to digest, tell them what to do, and when things break down, you have to understand the situation, and so forth. So, but that may work under the condition when things are stable, like I said, but as the situation changes more rapidly, this doesn't make sense. So we want to involve more people, utilize their talent the best they can, and they can manage, self-manage their area instead of bringing the problem upward. Of course, that's ideal. So the whole nature of the competition is related to each and every people to utilize the best. And if you can do that better, then the organization becomes more powerful. And in the meantime, people can enjoy and learn the skills and so forth. So the difference of those exhibit is pointing that the organization, more progressive one, has more of a skill upgrade, and the role, the attitude of each individual may change. The top may not just telling what people should do. They may ask the question, what can I do? This is my idea. How can you help me? And the people down here may say, well, there are lots of things here, and I can do this, or here are my suggestions. So we need to change the attitude of the traditional way of functioning to more educating, learning, and helping each other in a hierarchical direction. So management has to change. Ideal situation is you manage without managing, because people manage by themselves. And you have some system to monitor how things are happening, so the situation of the company's progress is assured without the top guys confused and solving the problem like a spark plug. Solve this, come back, and so on and so forth. But there's more of a close communication. There's another schematic here. I'm comparing the traditional, where they call it silo. A, B, C indicate the department, for example. Or it could be production, development, implementation, customer service, or fabrication, sub-assembly, assembly. There are different processes in the organization. And if every one of the department or the mini companies focus on their own interests, then they become task-oriented, and there's a cross-coordination may be lost. Previous slide was talking about the coordination hierarchical. This is talking about the cross-functional coordination. So we need to see the next process as the customer. You cannot just do the job in yourself and assume that's the end of it. You have the customer, and as a mini company, you have a supplier and customer, and the bankers and your people. and you are trying to listen to the customer, and if the customer is not happy to what you do, your mini company is not functioning what he should do. Of course, you're busy doing this and that, and you have to work on it, but you need to have some sense to visit the customer, listen to what kind of pain they have. Otherwise, if you are running your company, the company cannot run well if you don't listen to the customer. So those cross coordination has to be developed, not just the vertical direction of the hierarchy. You know, instead of each ABC department or top management, middle management, lower management speaking a different language and don't communicate, then there's a block of information. And we need to develop the comprehensible idea. And the idea of the mini company is one of the purposes to develop the common framework of how each of us manages and then connect to each other so that as a whole organization, it becomes more fluid, dynamic, instead of everybody centered, you know, somewhat egotistical or locally optimizing, but not connecting to the customers. This sounds obvious, but when you're busy, you may forget about it. So far, what I'm pointing out here is that the role and attitude of each individual may have to change. Here I said the management. Everybody's a manager of his own area of responsibility. So what we are looking for is the transformation of the organization, but that has to connect to each and every one of us to transform ourselves. Not just doing the job and task-oriented, but looking at the broader picture and understand the reason of existence, why I come to work, and am I satisfying the customer? And you are your own customer too. You want to satisfy yourself. So you have to have some kind of a measurement and a process to see how you're doing and monitor it. If you don't monitor it and summarize what's going on, you get busy doing this job, doing that job, and there's no summary, no time to understand what's going on. And that's not healthy because you get lost in doing the job. Doing the job is important, but for you to self-manage, to be effective in what you do, you need to know and reflect on what's happening in terms of the customer's happiness, supplier's happiness, boss's happiness, employee's happiness, and your own happiness. So you may say you don't have time to do it, but if you don't create time, you become task, busy and responding to the email, and you think if you respond to the email, that's the end of your work because you finished, send, and that's the end of it. Okay, that may sound like the end of it. I'm asking you to look at yourself in the mirror every now and then, or visit each other, so that you can balance out where you are. It's like you have to have a map and some kind of gyroscope or knowing where you are. So you know this is a little bit too much on this, or I'm spending too much on here, and I'm not talking with people or customers. You need to have some kind of a sense of where you are. Given every day's life and the email and the demand and the red and green and difficulty, unless we do it, the whole company can grow. And if everybody does it more and more, it sounds like we have to pay more. Maybe you should get paid, but you have to prove the reason of existence. Okay? And if you do those more, the organization becomes more vitalized, connect to each other. So the manager's role has to change because the playing field, the business is too complex. So the hierarchical control is too cumbersome. And the business is evolving rapidly, very quickly, so you have to make a decision, in the impermanent level of the information and so on and so forth quickly. And the technology marketplace are changing, and the decision at the top takes too much time, so that the more decision has to be made at where the action is. And if you do that, the whole organization becomes dynamic, and everybody becomes the manager, and that's the idea of the mini company. Okay? So management is not about control. Traditional one is do as I say, I control, this is important. They may still do it, but that's not good enough, because you're controlling, you may not utilizing your people's resources. So it's not just the control, but about making sense of the situation or the chaos and find a way to navigate into the future. Typical situation when I visit the company, I call it Crossfire syndrome. And this is the case of usually observed in the middle management. You know, everybody's middle management, by the way. Even the top is middle management, because there's the board members who are the bankers. Okay, department manager is the same. There's a, you know, he report to and the people. And at the shop floor, there's a, you know, supervisor, team leader. But there's people, or they have tools, you know, they have to manage. So the symptom is that there are different initiatives coming from different directions. Like there's a cost issue, the productivity issue. There may be an issue about the quality or lead time, you know, customer satisfaction, service level. So the human resource department may monitor the absenteeism, and the cost finance guy may monitor the productivity, and the quality guys talk about the yield, and logistic PCP, you call it here, the, you know, production control. In the case of industrial, they monitor the, you know, the lead time, inventory, customer satisfaction. So you have a meeting here, meeting there, meeting here, but if people have many meetings, they get confused, because each of them have their higher priority, and you have to synthesize, which means that everybody has to not just responding to those, but you have to make sense out of those information to prioritize and make a decision. And the bankers, your boss is to help doing it. If the banker's not doing, I suggest you still try to do it. Because the world is not perfect. You may have to educate your banker. And it may not make sense, but not everything makes sense. Okay? So if you prove well, you learn the skill of managing, and you prove it by the indicators, actions, prioritizing, and show the, I call it the annual report or monthly report, to show the reason of your existence. And more you do it, you feel good about it, because you have the mirror to look at and know what you're doing, why you're doing, and make an improvement. So that's self-managing, right? I mean, of course, bankers should help, but you may not get help all the time. So you do your own thing and share with the bankers, you know, get the guidance, agree with it, or share with the suppliers or customers or employees, so that the collective understanding is developed. So crossfire syndrome may exist, but you need to still understand the mission of why you are there, okay? And who are the customers and suppliers, bankers, employees, and the key KPI objectives and the plans that you make. So when I visit you, I ask these things. Where's your mission? Who are the customers? How do I see your KPIs? What is red and green? Which is more important? If this is the highest red, what action you have? The plan is according to the, you know, moving well or not, green or red. So those are the basic element of management. It may sound a little too much, because you have to look at the quality, cost, delivery, safety, morale, or new product, or whatever, and multiple goals, yeah? So it may be confusing, but if you don't work as a general manager of this, who would manage that? The quality guys may try to manage from their point of view, the cost guy, finance. So you get all busy. If you do the homework, you can explain better. If you don't do the homework, the arrow keep on coming back to you because you don't explain well. So the whole idea of this is not defending, but proving what you can do and share so that everybody can understand better how the business is done and how to prioritize, how to help each other. Because you have lots of greens on KPI. Maybe your next door, the customer or supplier or your friend has a red area. So you may help, possibly, even. I don't know. Am I making sense so far? Maybe you think I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming, yes. Because I'm dreaming that this can happen, will happen, has happened, and it's happening in Jackdaw or Unipack in a different level. And if you can understand how we are playing the game and sharing these things, then we are opening up more of the opportunities and possibilities and encouragement to move forward. So you have to always, every now and then, look at the mirror to see. Sometimes you go down, you still have to look at the mirror. You know, why did it go down, and learn the lesson? And that's the idea of PDCA, as you may have heard about it. The Plan, Do, Check, Act is the basic process of going forward. You know, but I said starting with check. Check what's going on, the KPI and so forth, what's good and bad, and prioritize, understand the reason why, and develop a plan. So check and act and develop a plan and do it. And then you come back and check the result to see what happened, learn the lesson, and keep on going forward. So it's a very simple idea, okay? So understanding the mission, understanding the customers, objectives, plans, and go through the PDCA, that will help the organization move forward. If you can share the information well, collect the wisdom, your mini company will be better, and you keep sharing it, celebrating, and so forth, and talking with the bankers and customers. That's the idea. I think everybody's hired to do the job, to do exactly in the area like that. The key idea is collect the wisdom of everyone. And to do that, we need to think from various viewpoints. And especially what's missing often is from the shop floor point or from the customer's point, because you become self-centered, task-oriented. You don't think from the other end. Then you develop the barrier, and the organization become more rigid. So we need to make everywhere comprehensible for everyone. And for that, I use the word glass wall management. What's going on and what's important has to be made visible. Because it's like playing the soccer. If you don't have a goal, how many goals? Maybe soccer is easy, but or the basketball and so forth. It makes the game more interesting. And the mini company is a game also. You won't have the scoreboard, if you're winning or losing. So sharing those KPI, the progress, is the idea of the glass wall. Also, you can share the key project and how the project is running, because the project has a relationship to the KPI, and you want to monitor how things are happening. Better managed you are, my experience says, the information is easy to get. If you remember the first or second page, I ask many questions. And if I get the answer in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, usually that means the manager in that area, the brain is very well organized. Not just within him, but it's presented. And if he's not well organized, there are lots of data in the computer, and I ask the question, I know the answer from this file, and I know the answer for this file, and it's here and here and here and here, and it takes so much time to understand the business. You know, I'm a stranger coming to your area as a stranger, but typically, if this stranger can get the key idea of what your missions, customers, objectives, project, and get the quickly the answer, that indicate this mini company is functioning well. Do you understand what I'm saying? But usually it's a gray wall, and there's someone in the office who knows everything, but other people are not understanding as much. Then you are not utilizing the people's skill as much. So it's a simple thing, and we want to make the simple thing easy for everyone to understand and practice it. So that's the discipline and the tenacity and the patience and the willingness that is required. Because you can come up with all the problems, you cannot do it. Because if you post the numbers here and the chart here, okay, that makes sense, but I don't have time, right? So you can always say there's always problems. So that's the battle, initially very important to go over. As you start to do a little bit at a time, things get easier to understand so that the communication is made easier, and hopefully the teamwork is better developed in this process. And accordingly, the people develop their skills, and the mini company is starting to function. So in essence, what this mini company is about is we want to understand and realize the reason of our existence, why we come to work, by the logic, chart, whatever, KPI, PDCA, and so forth. But I want to see with the people's spirit, energy level, not just the brain talking, I'm doing this, but if it's just the brain, usually something is missing. Maybe this is Oriental way of thinking from Japan. But also as a human being, you don't just have the brain, but you have the feeling, and you want to express it and connect with other people. If you think about what you feel when you feel great about coming to work, is when things are happening and people can share the progress. There's a communication without, the brain and many page 35 and 67 of the PowerPoint and this, therefore, it's okay too. But if it become more intuitively understood, it's like playing the soccer game. The good soccer player would know when he's doing what is going on in the other place, other partners, and where the ball should be. So those are the intuitive sense that you can develop by the logic and the discipline, but also working as a team and communicating each other. And there's the fun and joy if we can do that more, as much as you may play soccer or fishing. Fishing may be more of a one-person sport, but maybe you connect with the fish better, I don't know. Connect to the nature and communicate with them, who knows. So if you have that experience, the coming to work become fun, and not so much of a labor and a task, but there's more about it. And I think there's something that we need to think in that direction. So let's utilize the best of what we have, and can we be the master of our own destiny? That's the kind of question. So about the mini company, I was talking this subject from different angle, but if I capture the essence of the mini company, it's fairly simple. We work together as a team. There's a mini company here and a mini company here. Each group is a mini company, even to the level each individual is a mini company within the group too. So each entity should have a mission why they come to work. It may not be easy to capture in 3 minutes, but you might want to work with the group to figure out why you come to work, so that, okay, your reason is so, and your reason is so, and so, it's all different, right? Because we have a different background interest. But if we communicate each other, we may start to see the essence that you can have a common purpose of coming together. And if you have a good leader, good team, they have the common purpose, like a soccer team. Making money is one of them, but they may be much more than just making money. They find joy in doing it, and the money may be the result of their great performance too. So you find the mission collectively. It may take some time. I think it may be meaningful, but in doing the mission, clarifying the mission, you also need to understand who are the customers and suppliers, bankers, employees. So there's a relationship of the mini company at the center and how they relate to each other. So I often suggest to draw a picture, the mini company, and arrows going this way and that way, and some arrows coming back from the other entity. One interesting case that happened, this is 25 years ago, I still remember, is that this Spanish company did do this exercise, the mission, customer, supplier, relationship, and so forth. So I went to the accounting and finance office, and I saw the chart, and they are at the center, and there are other people, like a board or CEO, the department, da-da-da-da-da. And what's funny, and I couldn't believe it, is that all the arrow is going to them, and no arrow is going out. Because they think their job is to collect the information, and maybe there may be one arrow to the board, I don't know. But it's all, just I want the information, but to me that doesn't make sense. But making this visual, it was interesting to discover that that was the case. So if we check and balance with each other, we understand better, we can educate with each other how to make things work. So this company, by the way, they got the EFQM, European Federation Quality Award in 1992 or something. And the guy who was the finance manager was the main person to process this, and he was the one giving this chart to me when I visited the first time. So, but it's okay. We make mistakes, but if we can be looking at the mirror and understand and move forward, that's the whole point of it. And just a little story behind this point. So mission and customer orientation is important, and you need to have a measurable objective, or it helps to know, just like a map and where you are located. So you may have the quality, cost, delivery, safety, morale, something like that. You can add more to it to monitor it. Or you can monitor just one or two elements first and then develop the habit to get better and change it as time passes. So you have a scoreboard and have a glass wall to monitor the progress, and then use that to discuss the problems and opportunities and come up with the skills to develop a plan better, and of course post the plans so that you can see better what are the red and what are the projects that correspond to the red area that you are trying to improve. Common sense, right? So this is, my suggestion is not have it in someone's brain, but share it so that you all understand and work together for the common goal. So one project may be red, and this major red in the KPI. What do? There may be a owner of the project, Mr. ABC, but you may help Mr. ABC because you have a green project and you have some extra time. So having the information made visible, it can expose the problem better, and you can work as a team, like a soccer team. And you can transfer skills or rotate the job and so forth for the best of the company so that individuals can benefit and the mini company can benefit. And as you move forward, share the accomplishment, lessons learned, and report the progress to the bankers. I call the boss as the banker. You are the entrepreneur. They are the boss who would provide the resource, and hopefully they are providing advices, right? Not just telling what to do. And you report the progress to bankers with a monthly report, annual report. To me, annual report is important all the way, everywhere. And maybe there's the personal career plan that you have. And the annual report is like a resume. This year I've done this, before it was sold, this is what happened, these are the projects, and this is what I summarized the lessons learned, and this is the next project into the future. So that tells you how you manage your mini company. And over time, you accumulate this, it becomes like a journey that you can share. And if the banker is not the good banker, this is the American way, just bring your resume to some other bankers to sell your skills so that you can satisfy your idea. But you have to prove it, the reason of existence, what you can do, and show a track record. More track record you have, the bankers may listen to you more, and there's a better chance for you to explore into the future, whatever that future may be. You can complain the situation, and you can complain the market, technology, bankers, but everybody does it. So you have to prove, given the difficult situation, how you manage it. Prove to yourself. I think that's important. And also to share with other people. So those are the basics. What's interesting here to me is that this is so basic, I shouldn't be speaking about it. Because if you think about it, if you hire someone this person should know the mission, should understand the customers, bankers, and so forth. He should be able to relate to what are the target and the project and execute the share and report back, right? So there's nothing new about it. And it's not practice, unfortunately, from my point of view. That's why I happen to be talking about this subject over and over. And also the reason is that opportunity is there. That's my conviction. I've seen many companies transforming and moving forward. And I know Jakto here has been implementing lots of ideas in the last 2-3 years. So it's good, getting better. But I spent the last 2 days walking around asking this question, that question. There are lots of interesting stories. I don't go into it, but maybe a little bit later. But there's always opportunities. And that's great, because that also helps you to be excited about and be a part of the solution, and hopefully not the part of the problem. And if the company as a whole can have an environment understanding the principle, because the principle is fairly simple, easy. So if everybody can practice it, the communication gets better. Because if I'm, outside, or I'm the engineering or finance, I go to your area, I know what you're doing. If it's a shop floor or the service, because the structure is the same. So in a way, if you learn the skill and practice well, you can move around to get more understanding of how the business is done. Not to say everybody should do it, because your interest is more of a technical area or something else, but still, getting to know more about how the business is run and prove, you can gain lots of insight in this process. So that's the kind of idea I hope you can pick up from today's discussion. So visually, this is the example of the mini company area. I go visit. As I said, if the information is easy to understand, even for strangers, that typically indicate a sound situation. So here you have the mission, maybe a picture of the people working together, customer-supplier relationship chart, and arrow may go in and out. And then the KPIs, red and green, and maybe comment is there. And some of these can be electronic, I guess, but personally, I'm maybe coming from the old style, people writing has some feeling to go with it. But maybe you can use electronic board too. And the customer survey or plan of action, skill matrix, planning, and some of the success stories, problem that people are working on that you can see, the idea, suggestions, award, share the progress, things like that. And there may be reference material and annual report and so forth. So the key information about the mini company is there where the action is. Not in the office, not in the computer file, not at the board meeting and the top management, only shared monthly. And you don't remember page 3 and page 7 and the connection and what happened after 30 minutes after the meeting. So, but this is the living document, how the game is played, mission, customers, KPI project, who is doing what, red and green, and working together. So that's the role of the leader, mini company president, to orchestrate this. And that is to happen here, 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 cross-functional mini companies. There are many mini companies that you can think about. But somehow develop the organization developed, like neurons. Or it's almost like human body. You know, we have the lung, heart, kidney, and intestine, and things like that. And to me, each of them are like mini company. You know, they have the customer-supplier relationship among the organs. And instead of having a central control from the brain, what to do, the heartbeat should be so much and the pressure should be so much, it takes too much communication going up and down to the brain to process it. You want to have them self-organizing, connecting the customers and, you know, balance out harmoniously on its own. So it's much healthier and less burdensome in the brain. I may come back to this discussion, but, you know, ideally, more can be done by each doing the best they can, and that helps the burden relieved from the brain, so the brain can be utilized in a productive manner to find the next thing to do. So anyway, show what's going on at where the action is. This is the management information. In relation to lean and the line, you know, Kanban and the SOP and so forth are the information at where the action is too. You may not know some of those terms, but SPC and you know, it's not management, but the management of the area, you know, for certain functions. So everything is organically connected to each other, and that's why I think we call this is organization. So this is the example of the project tracking. You know, what are the action plan? And each action plan may connect to the quality, cost, delivery, whatever. And what are who are the owners? What are the timing? And the status is green or red. So if there's a problem and the delivery is the main issue that you want to address, okay, let's focus on D and how many of those relate to the D, you know, delivery. So there are like a 3 or 4 projects, and you can see how many of them are red. So you can relate to, you know, what the balance is, what are the problems, what the action is. So if you can be clear to this level, you can think about, okay, how can we change this? Can we shorten the time to implement the project? Can we add more resource in this area? You know, things like that. Yeah? So you can put the ideas together. But the information is processed in the brain and the meeting. Without the preparation, it takes more time. So we need to do the homework to show what's going on, and that, you know, meeting is more dynamic and more efficient and quick. So that's another trick that you can utilize. This is just an example. This shows the annual report that I was talking about. You know, reason of existence, how to prove it. You know, what's your mini company name, mission, customers, employees' skills, the layout, objectives, you know, accomplishment, so on and so forth, and plan for the future. And my view is it's a good exercise for everyone to do. One story I remember is this is already 1987 or something, you know, 30 years ago. One of the small company I worked, there was a warehouse manager, and I visited him, and we were talking, and he was reading his annual report. We talked about it, and he said when he's emotionally depressed, down, every now and then he just closed the door and looked back at the annual report. So annual report tells you what was up and down. It's not always down. Some story is there. So he said that encouraged him to go back to work by looking at it. The progress is not smooth, but you learn the lesson and move forward. So it's your reflection that you can pick up from that kind of experience. So this is the orchestration for the whole company, right? It's PDCA going on at each level, and they need to be connected. All of them is connected to achieve the company mission and broken down to the mini company mission. And there's a rhythm, the heartbeat of PDCA, and there's harmony among them. And so the conductor, maybe Fernando is a conductor, can listen to the noise coming from here and there quickly, so he can address the problem much more quickly or help address the problem. And each of them is trying to do their nice music, playing music. So banker, mini company, banker, mini company. Or the mini company is the banker to the mini company below, right? That's the kind of a relationship. Okay? So there's a relationship of the mission at the high level, medium level, lower level. There's a relationship about the KPIs, deployed across the level, and the project may be deployed or added on at the lower level as they wish. And there should be some level of alignment, and that has to be monitored and checked. So that's the whole picture that you can think of as the whole organization. But it all depends on everybody's doing their job and helping each other, like a soccer team, and practicing the glass wall. In this case, I'm just showing there's a quality cost delivery at the high level, and let's say the cost is red, and who are the contributors of the KPI? And there's a mini company A, B, C, and maybe in this case, mini company B and C is contributing to a higher cost. So doing this is painful, but it's a reality that I think we need to share. At the beginning, there may be resistance to share the pain. I understand that. But the reality is the reality, and you start from somewhere. Okay, sometimes the target is too high, right? So it may be too big. But we need to kind of massage, share the ideas, why it's important, how it can be done different. So you start this. Over time, you start to communicate better. So the whole organization, by going through the PDCA, can become more fluid and dynamic and understand with each other. So that's the idea, fairly simple. In terms of implementation, let's see, customer-driven management leadership, and as you see here, we need to have a good discipline, address the need of the people, upgrade the skills as you go by the need developed and understood, and develop the linkage across the organization, and spend time with the will and desire to implement. You can start from the top, from the bottom, from the pilot case, but the aim is the same. Again, the rhythm, tone, and harmony, and then explore a way to utilize the potential of the people. Example of the Chinese company, you tried glass wall, but it didn't last for a long time because they tried to do too much. But they learned the lesson to reflect themselves. Some company developed a plan of action to implement mini companies. At the end, it's like a sailing. My vision is that you try to go one direction, things may not work well, unexpected things happen, you change the course a little bit and keep on aiming in the direction to achieve the mission. In the process, we can share the progress among many companies to mutually learn, because every mini company may go through different learning experience, so it helps to learn with each other. So it helps to provide such opportunity. Maybe company can develop a day when it may stop half a day or 2 hours, and the mini company has each area organized, and you can visit different mini companies in the 2 hours period. Ask question, come back with the answer. You may be the supplier, you may be the customer to the other mini company. And as much as you speak more about your experience and getting the questions asked, you understand better about people's concern. You may learn how to present the information better. You may learn how to solve the problem, some techniques or ideas that the other mini company implement. You can kind of borrow it to use it in your mini company too. So there's a cross-fertilization of idea that helps the organization to be more solid in this process. So over time, this progress may continue. One thing I want to still share is what I found in the Toyota. They say people are at the center. Team members are not asked to do that they don't find it meaningful. Not just giving them tasks what to do. They have to explain the meaning. So they are asked to eliminate the waste. And the people at the center using the machine and not to be used. And the process of how they manage expose the problem better. And everyone and team members are encouraged to correct the problem that is exposed. And people are given the opportunity to make decisions about what they can do. It's very simple, but the first sentence, people are not asked to do the job they don't find meaning is a very strong statement, but the company feels that's very important. So if I look at the situation, the story is fairly simple, and I gave the presentation one day in China or Taiwan, and one of the audience, one person told me, I got it, Professor Suzaki, it's a great idea, but he drew a picture which is the bird in the center. I feel like a bird and the door is open, but I don't know what to do. How can you do? How can I do it, Professor Suzaki? And I said, what do you think? That's your business, and I'm trying to stimulate more like a catalyst. And they are the tools and ideas, the decisions is yours. So fortunate or unfortunate, that's the story. That's the story of the mini company. I want to tie into what I call Tenmei, which is heaven, order from heaven, which is how can we orient the work and life for a meaningful purpose. Someone asked me what are the key ideas. I came up with the six elements. One, we need to have a mission to move forward. Second point, we need to challenge according to the passion. We can do this and that. We often hit the wall. You have to break and think beyond the conventional wisdom. And going through that, you may break through and have a moment of awakening. Then going through that more and more, you may find what you really like to do, and that's the Tenmei, the order from heaven. This is your destiny that you want to do. And we may each learn to come to that realization. And if you find that, then you may find happiness in what you do. Nobody's telling this is what you do, but I think that's my reflection of how I see my life as a journey. And there's a difficulty, we break through, learn the lesson, move forward, find a destiny. So I talk to my son, do what you like, but if that helps the society, you may find the right passage, you go to the right course. That was my advice to my son. I was repeating like a broken record, this is my last advice. Here's the Zen scholar saying that society advances, but we may become mechanical. But we can find a way so that we can be the master of our destiny. There's a difficulty, but we can utilize our creativity to come up with a solution. So the heart is at the center and do what we really like to do that helps others and go through this process of starting from the passion and use the brain, but also listen to our heart and live with the mission. So that's the idea of the mini company. But as I mentioned, each individual can use this in their, in the company, but also in their life. And here's a case of a KPI from one of the examples of how you live your life. So in this case, there are 6 or 7 areas. There's the importance of the parameters and how satisfied you are. This is one individual's case. Living truthfully, is important. Work is another category. Hobby is important, but not as important as work in this case. There's a health, there's a relationship, maybe between your partners or with the kids or others around, and finance. So you can monitor those KPIs and see how much you're satisfied and go through the PDCA. What are the red and green and what you can improve? Am I making sense? So the same idea can be utilized so that your life is balanced and work is balanced according to your life's purpose. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to spend some time to talk about AI or artificial intelligence, how we may relate to it into the future. What I found about AI, or they call it deep learning, is very interesting. As the computer power increases and the cost is reduced, lots of the activities that we do can be put into the computer and they may come up with the suggestions. Like a Siri in the Apple's iPhone, there's a dialogue you can do with the computer. If I have a question, the computer can answer. And the computer can answer a lot more things to the point that perhaps the diagnosis of the cancer is better done by the computer. Maybe you have heard of such a story. Instead of the doctor doing it, because there are so many papers and the difficulty to check out the MRI and so forth, but the computer can do very quickly, so the computer can come up with a solution. So what it indicates in this case is that a lot of what we do as an individual can be replaced by the computer. I never thought that this is happening so quickly, but I start to realize that many jobs, maybe 90% of what we do may be replaced by the computer. That sounds unreal, but if you think about the agricultural population, maybe 99%, maybe down to 20%, 10%, each industrial revolution and information revolution can change the work we do. So I think you need to think about how to use AI, relate to AI, and also figure out how you can, again, navigate your life. What it does in the computer, in simple slide, is that there are lots of data, but the data can become information and knowledge, and if you synthesize those, there's the wisdom that can be developed. And the computer basically is trying to do that, so that all the confusion and chaos and the information, so many big data you have, can be synthesized with the computer's help to come up with a solution. And that wisdom we can relate to each other between me and my AI or the company, the hospital operation, and agricultural, whatever, and automotive, self-guiding vehicle, and all sorts of things happening. So I think you need to also think about that as the potential coming up. And I never thought that the time is so quick, but the situation is happening. This is the Richard Feynman, who is a Nobel Prize winner. And he's talking about something interesting, I thought, when I read this. He said, I don't know what's the matter with people. They don't learn by understanding. They learn by some other way, by rote or something. Their knowledge is so fragile. So what it means to me is that the information and the knowledge is there, and there's a habit there, but the synthesizing come with the wisdom is not there, so we just wander around. I don't know if it makes sense, but if you know all the cause and effect relationship and how the information is made clarified, as we talked about the information in the mini company, in a glass wall in the organization, instead of hidden, if they become practiced and the red and green become clear, you start to know what to do. But if the data is not processed and the information is captured, there's lots of information in the field service or the shop floor or any place, but it's all hidden somewhere. That information is not processed, and therefore we just run around having a meeting and discussion. But many of those can be replaced by AI, and I think we need to practice more of the mini company to streamline, clarify. That helps the transition better, and I'm sure something's going to happen in your lifetime, maybe in the next 5, 10, 20 years. The software and software can replace you. I don't mean to create the fear of this, but I also think that AI can be your friend, because we have a judgment but the habit too. But the Siri or new AI can help us guide the direction. But to do that, we have to know what the AI may do and be prepared. If I think about AI, and AI is related to the neural network, how the brain works. So what they have done in the last 5, 10 years is that neurons network, they understand it and use that same concept in the computer and plug in lots of information. They come up with a solution to it, okay? So I see the analogy is applied in how we use our brain. When I mentioned about the Feynman, he said something like, we don't understand well enough. And what it means to me is that we only chase for the symptom, the phenomena, the problem in front of us, but not deep inside where the problems are, we are not clear, like in the case of organization. So organization, you heard about the red and green and where the problems diagnose and come together as a team. Each individual has the same structure of organization. And if we use just the brain and the symptom of the issue and sending the email back and doing this and that, that's the end of the brain, it may not utilize all the possibilities that we have in our whole, structure. So one of the study is about the brain wave, and they monitor the guy who is thinking. And the one on the left, top left, is indicating only a certain portion of the brain is utilized. To me, that's the symptom of chasing the fire and not looking at the total picture. You have to do it. So there's a moment you do it, but on the right is the brain when the eyes are closed and he is digesting and mind is calm, not reacting. Then you have access to the big data and the issues that may exist in your brain, almost to the level of unconsciousness. The point is that when you come up with a creative idea, you are doing lots of thinking, but in the bathroom and sleeping and driving, and mind is resting, idea pops up. So it's kind of like thinking using the brain, but you kind of like to meditate, be quiet-minded. So I use the word, use your brain, but listen to your heart. Just brain enough is not quite good. As in the case of the psychosomatic disease, if you think too much, your stomach suffers and stressed. But if you're busy, you don't notice your stomach is suffering. So you are too narrowly focused and your balance is lost. The organization happened the same way. And to me, AIs help us to not to do that if we understand how AI works. So we need to learn how to process the information and not react. Of course, it's easy to say, difficult to do. But that's part of our job. Otherwise, we may get lost in the journey. So, few more slides. We have different skills and background, but we may have something common that we want to utilize. We need to have a mechanism to do it, including how we use our brain so that the synthesis of the idea can be made more efficiently. And we want to do it as a group. Yesterday, toward the end of my visit, someone asked me, what is the one word that I can explain to capture the essence of mini company? I don't know where he is. And I thought that's an interesting question. I thought about it. You know, so what's the point? And I came up with the answer at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I wrote this slide. And I explained to you. Another question is, what is the gyroscope of our journey? I use the word gyroscope. I ask you to think, what is your gyroscope? And what's the interest we may have in common? Those are the interesting questions to me. One of the answers I came up about the mini companies, I used the word wakuwaku, meaning the Japanese word, the sense of happiness or aliveness. So that's the gyroscope. When you have aliveness, you are in the right direction. When you don't have it, you are not quite engaging yourself. So do I have my gyroscope functioning all the time? Right? Often not. But you want to find every now and then, reflect in your mirror, you are in the right direction or not. That's part of the PDCA, I think, we need to do. And also sense of having a dream and purpose, mission, heart at the center. Things like that is important. And not just artificial, but maybe natural intelligence that is embedded in our structure. And Anton de Exupéry says, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible. So you cannot just search for the solution for the brain, but listen to your heart. So that's basically the story. And I wish you the best for your journey at work and in your life. Thank you.